Phoenix player number 2 can take down the Lotus Field Juggernaut.
Well, we watched Max earlier today pull off an incredible win with Phoenix that I think almost no one would have given him a shot to win, and probably very few people realistically could have won. But he pulled it together there. He countered his own spell, which we've seen pop up a few times. It's always a fun play when it happens. But yeah, that was a great win we saw by Max, which paved his way into this top 8, where now he sits with a chance to take down the regional champion from Europe, Adrian Inigo Tasset, who is playing, of course, the Lotus Field deck. And both players looks like are shipping those opening hands. So going to start at least 6 here. We talked about the Lotus Field deck having really strong mulligans and being because of the existence of Lotus Field. Phoenix, on the other hand, not to say its mulligans are terrible or anything, but you do want a critical mass of spells, and the fewer cards you have in hand, the harder that is to do.
I'll say this. Max, someone obviously that is very familiar with Is It Phoenix, if there's someone that can, kind of win this uphill battle against Lotus Field, Max is certainly one of the players that can get the job done and, mulliganing intelligently, not just keeping hand that functions, but actually looking for cards good in the matchup. He's got a few that are maybe not necessarily stocked Is It Phoenix outside the normal 2 spell pierces. He also has access to a copy of Thing in the Ice. That's another turn 2 threat that you can start to really put the clock on Lotus Field quickly and, ahead of schedule of just, things like Ledger Shredder and stuff like that. If you have a bunch of spells going on in order to get your Phoenix in the yard, that's one of the cards that you can do the trick where you lightning axe it for the last counter and then it flips to a 7/8 so it doesn't die. You get to discard a Phoenix, attack for 10. That gets the job done very quickly. So he's got a few tools, and Temporal Trespass still present as well, that are going to help in this matchup. And if he's mulliganing looking for those, can give himself a little bit of a better chance in the abysmal game 1.
Well, you're just setting it up. This is a great setup for when Max is able to fight through it here. That or, Adrian will just continue to roll. Look at him. He's just very calm, just hanging out, just waiting. Max is going through the mulligan process, not where you want to be. Adrian's just like, yeah, I'll probably play a land on turn 1 and a land on turn 2. And then on turn 3, I'll have 1 land in play. And then on turn 4, I'll win.
I'll win the game. Yeah, I mean, you come over here, you're getting ready for the Pro Tour. Like, I'm gonna check this NRG stuff, see what this is about. Play against a ton of great players, and you're just sitting there like, wow, y'all think Phoenix is good, huh?
Yeah, 5 Phoenix players.
Show up with that deck, huh? All right, okay. Well, I don't mind. You just keep doing that. If you do that in Chicago, you let me know how that goes. I'll play against you again there. We'll see what's up.
Well, it is interesting. Like you've talked earlier about how many of the regulars and the top players on the NRG series like to play control decks, right? And look, regional differences in metagames are absolutely a thing. And you talk about it in the context of something like a circuit in the United States, but also Magic's an international game. Especially when there's not a long series of high level, say, Pro Tour type events, metagames in these eternal formats as new sets come out can kind of develop in kind of different ways until you have something unifying to bring them together. Is it Phoenix crushing this tournament? But Adrian was very much ready for it, coming with his own experience and a completely different playing background.
Yeah, and speaking to that, when I mentioned earlier that we saw a lot of different decks from really, really smart players and players that are certainly going to be playing in the Pro Tour, playing this event. And, obviously NRG has a lot of control. And I think with none of the control making top 8, that certainly shows the way that the Swiss broke out. Maybe not as much Lotus Field as you'd expect, given how much Phoenix is in the top 8 because of the presence of so much control. But the Phoenix decks were able to, beat up on the control decks. They managed to not make top 8. And it speaks to when the decks are this close in power level, tastes and preferences start to come into play more. And you're going to see even more regional differences because there isn't just a clear broken deck, but a great start from Adrian to kick things off on the play here.
Yeah. Well, okay. Okay, Max. Okay, Max. I see you.
Max says, I have all of the cards I want, except the ones with the type land on them.
Look, they say you have to get lucky to win a Magic tournament, and every hand needs something to go right for it. Max's hand needed lands.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to juice him up as he's about to just get the ball bounced off his face a little bit, but I don't think most players have what it takes to keep a hand with no lands on it in a bad matchup. To just mulligan down into oblivion to the cards that you know are going to give you a chance to win. All you have to do is draw lands. You don't do that, and you end up looking maybe a little bit goofy in some players' eyes, but I actually think it's really smart. Most players just don't have what it takes to keep a no-lander on the draw in a bad matchup, and he does, and it didn't pay off, and it's going to look rough for him as a result, but that may just be what gives him the best chance to win, and he is done with the Chandra in play.
I've seen it in a Pro Tour top 8, right? It takes a lot of confidence to do that, and to know that it's the right thing, and to know that sometimes you go for it on 4th down and you don't make it, and it's still the right thing to do. And props to Max in a game where you're mulliganing to 4 anyway. Give it a shot. Didn't work out. That's okay. It happens.
Precisely. Well, as you mentioned, did not get there on the going for it on the 4th down. Dan Campbell impression for Maxx Kominowski, but let's take a look at what he has access to improve this matchup, because in the sideboard games, I mentioned this before, I think the sideboard games are closer, especially when you're on the play. So I really like Max's chance going into this next game, but then of course game 3 gets a little bit hard. See what he has access to in order to shore this matchup up a little bit.
Yeah, look, you called it abysmal in game 1.
It's
so
abysmal.
if you're gonna take your mold of 4, may as well have it come in game 1, right? And now you can move to the sideboard where he's got access to some of these cards. So against Lotus Field on the Izzet Phoenix side, what is Max looking to do here? He's got those disputes.
Ashiok Dream Render is a card that should stick out immediately. This is for Lotus Field. I don't think there's really anybody else this is even good against. The Graveyard Hate Mode, not great, but the stopping the search, a huge part of the equation, especially on the play. You can catch things like the Sylvan Scryings, definitely catch the Dark Petitions and the Emergent Ultimatums. It's just very effective against the deck that combos off with a bunch of tutors. So gonna be slam dunking that one into his deck alongside the cast that we've seen before. Counter spells, Mystical Disputes, Aether Gust, and you probably also want the Brazen Borrower, if nothing else, just to bounce the Dragon Lord Dromoka if you need to push a kill.
That Brazen Borrower comes up, right? Like that card works its way into decks as just kind of the ultimate one of, because it just always comes up. It's wild how good that card is.
Absolutely. So a ton of tools here. And I want to make the point, I think his sideboard is more respectful to the Lotus Field matchup than we've seen from other Izzet Phoenix players playing against Adrian so far. So I like his chances in game 2. Obviously things can break one way or the other, but I think he has the tools to get the job done where other players might not. Let's take one more look at Adrian's deck list. We've seen it before. That's because he's doing a lot of winning. But we'll see if he wants to do anything different. And players do have open deck lists, so he's going to know about this Ashiok here in the top 8. Does he want to make any adjustments for it? Can he even make any adjustments for it? Let's take a look here. Got Narset's Reversal. We got Unannounced Exit. Going to take a look at that card. I don't think I've actually read that card.
Yeah, so I'm working my way through some of these cards as well. When you see a bunch of cards like this, which you don't have 4 of this card and 4 of that card and 3 of this card and 4 of that card, and that's your 15 card sideboard. When you see a lot of these smaller numbers and cards like Narset's Reversal and Authorized Exit, Depopulate, like sort of cards you're not necessarily used to seeing, it means one of 2 things typically. Either the player has put a lot of work, or someone has put a lot of work in the deck list and figured out exactly where these cards find their niche and where they fit in, or they just read what they had in their sideboard and they're flying around, and that's how they built their deck. In this case, I think it's probably more like the former.
Yeah, definitely. I like the idea, and you can speak to like trying stuff, and a lot of these are monocolored things like Unauthorized Exit, which is a bounce spell, which actually you might want here if you are worried about something like Ashiok coming down being a problem. You can actually find those with your Emergent Ultimatum. Now, obviously, you can't do it after the fact, so maybe that's not good enough, not a factor. But the monocolored singleton one-ofs that look a little bit weird, you can find with your Emergent Ultimatums that maybe you can't quite combo off yet for whatever reason. You can maybe get something else done instead. That can be part of the equation. But beyond that, I once again, I don't think we're going to see giant sweeping changes. You might be a little bit more interested in the mana form Hellkite than you were otherwise because of the presence of Ashiok. It is only one card swap, and if you have a particular card you're not fond of in the matchup, maybe that matters. Second Chandra kind of speaks to the same thing, where you can pick off the Ashiok if you want. So maybe you can do some small one-card adjustments, but largely the same style setup that we've seen from Adrian before with the silent stuff, the Dromoka that has been incredible, things like Narset Reversal and the like.
Yeah, something else we've seen before, mulligans, and it looks like both players are up to that as we get ready to head down to the match.
Up the mulligans. Certainly a matchup where very particular cards are extremely important. That's not the true of every matchup. Sometimes, you just want a mix of cards. You don't necessarily want specific cards. Right. This is one of the matchups where I think you are much more interested in specific cards, and I would expect to see the mulligan process reflect that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm a big a believer in lands and spells because I think that having to shuffle more is just really not what I'm there to do. So that's my philosophy, but that may describe why I'm not Max and Adrian in the semifinals in the NRG Championship Series. But to your point, you're absolutely right. Like, lands and spells doesn't always get it done. The right spells get it done, especially in a matchup like this.
Your casual showing a little bit, Corbin. we spoke a little bit before the broadcast about your casual play. Do you play fetch lands in your casual decks? Tell me.
Yeah, I got to thin my deck,
Oh, but the man who doesn't like shuffling is gonna make all his lands. Okay, just checking. Just doing a little peek into the mind,
into the brain, into the mind.
Mind, Corbin Osler.
I'll tell you, my modern deck of choice, my deck of choice in every format is Merfolk, and I don't have to play fetch lands there.
Not a lot of shuffling there. Yeah, that's true. Probably maybe Path to Exiles. You're getting all your lords destroyed, then you have to shuffle them. But
yeah, well, unfortunately for Adrian, he's still shuffling, and stoically is going to be going down.
Could never be you. Could never, would never, can't be you.
Yeah.
Max seems to have found a hand he likes. Pretty bad news for Adrian, I think, on the play, but of course that's going to set the stage for an impactful game 3, but does need to actually execute on game 1. Are we talking about whether or not he has to put the card on the bottom of the deck before the mulligan decision is made?
There are some really technical rules about that don't often come up, and I don't know if it's going to matter here, but I do think that might be what's happening.
Well, I like looking dumb on camera, so I think that you are supposed to bottom your card before the player makes the mulligan decision.
So maybe he's just thinking about it then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the equation here. I think we're also just getting judge confirmation maybe as well. The player's just kind of sitting there. Yeah, okay. We've decided what to bottom, and now we make the mulligan decision. Yeah, you don't do it at the same time after everyone's kept hands. You do it as soon as you keep a hand, I think.
All right, we've got that settled. Now we'll see if Adrian likes what he's looking at. Looks like he's setting aside some cards here to bottom. Starting at a disadvantage now, both on the draw and down cards, but we saw this in the last round as well. He was able to drop game 2 and just came back in game 3 without any problems at all. So we'll see if he's able to do the same here. Max is going to start things off, cantripping through his deck. Yeah,
I mean, Adrian able to take game 2 off. We saw that in the quarterfinals. Just like, yeah, whatever. You're gonna get under me, beat me up a little bit. Blah blah blah. Nice sideboard cards. All right, game 3. Let's let me on the play. Here we go. Let's fix this. Ledger Shredder.
Well, this is a good start for Max.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what turn 2 looks like. Shields are down. Can resolve scrying. It's impulse instead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not exactly what he's looking for. We'll see what he finds off of this, though. I didn't catch it there, but he's setting up, I think, a Flash and Archsteward's Charm, maybe setting up on turn 3 to be able to go find his land here. But Max able to untap with Ledger Shredder, and now everything's available to him. 3 mana.
It's Ashiok. Oh, no. Oh, look at the eyebrows went up. The eyebrows from Adrian tells the whole story. What?
No scrying. No Sylvan scrying here.
All right. Okay. I think we're just getting Oracle text on that one. Yeah, that was pretty good. It leaves me to wonder if he just didn't know what the card did when looking over the sideboard. Maybe he thought it was just graveyard hate and it wasn't actually for this matchup. Because he looked so surprised when it came down. I mean,
Yeah,
if you're gonna lose
yeah.
a game, it should be the one where you mulligan a bunch, and Max has on the play his best card. Yeah, check it out. You can't search. I can if I want to, and I can exile your graveyard if I want to.
This one is up there with Teferi on most forgotten Planeswalker static abilities that people try to do wrong, and it never goes well for them.
And you get extra sugar here too, so you actually can pick different players to exile the yard and to mill. So you get to mill yourself, trying to hit your birds and feel your delve and all that stuff, and exile his graveyard. So that's what just happened there. We have our impulse and exile, 4 extra cards added to Max's graveyard. So that's why we're down ticking, because it actually just adds a lot of value to this deck.
Yeah, a pretty good 1, 2, 3 here for Max. Sleight of Hand, like Shredder into that. Vizier, we've seen the Vizier, I think, hardcast in almost every sideboard game now with Lotus Field. You talked about how it happens more often, and that's what we're seeing. But with no actual Lotus Field in play, this is going to be very difficult for Adrian to just climb out of in any way. But is there a way to fight through this Ashiok that doesn't involve attacking it with a Vizier?
Yeah, I mean, you could obviously naturally draw your Lotus Field thing, and then if you can do that, maybe you can cast like your Chandras that deals damage to stuff. You can pick off the Ashiok that way. Like, you have a bunch of different cards. We mentioned Unauthorized Exit. That's a bounce spell. You can bounce the Ashiok and go for it. Like, you're not just dead in the water, certainly. But if Adrian is having trouble establishing a Lotus Field to begin with, and your cards to do that are things like Archdruid's Charm and Sylvan Scrying, well, those are both tutors that no longer work. And based on the sequencing of things here with the Impulse, I mean, it certainly speaks to Adrian not having a Lotus Field, and now most of the ways to find it are shut off.
You're right. And I guess it's hard to find good news here, but if you're Adrian, but the one thing you could point to is that I don't see any Phoenixes in the yard for Max, which means the pressure at the moment, at least, is not absolute. We're conniving, though. If the Phoenixes aren't in the yard, sometimes they're usually in the hand. We'll see if Max is able to pitch one. No,
well, I think that's actually what Max was trying to set up there. So if you saw, he triggered the Ledger Shredder with that first Consider, and then with that trigger on the stack, cast another Consider, certainly looking for birds. And if you draw one after you surveil whatever card to the graveyard, it speaks to you're going to surveil whatever it is to the graveyard, no matter what, and looking for a bird. And if you find a bird off the random draw, you can discard it to the connive. You get an extra look at a bird by firing off the connive right then and right there. Very heads up play by Max in order trying to enable a bird. Didn't pay off. That's okay. Got also extra decision making on that final Consider, and you saw a little bit of consideration there.
Well, you explained that line very well, and that's something I think a lot of people they don't catch when you're playing the deck even, right? But that's the kind of thing that in Pioneer we talked often about how while there are some lopsided matchups generally across the field, what matters in Pioneer is learning your deck very well and getting everything out of your deck, because that tends to be there's enough variation across the field that's how you get the most juice out of your deck selection in a tournament. And that's one of those small things there that if you're an Is It Phoenix player, it feels second nature or whatever. But if you're a player who's done nothing but played, I don't know, humans or whatever, and it's not come up, and you're trying to pick up Is It Phoenix because you think it's good for a weekend, you're not going to know about it immediately. And that's just you see Max as makes it to the top 4 of the NRG here because he's very, very practiced with this deck, knows its in and outs and how to get every piece of value from it.
Yeah, I think there are a few things in Magic more rewarding than getting to not only play the deck you like and have an affinity for because it's good for a weekend, but also being able to do so and have your expertise on the deck matter. And that's certainly, I think, what we're speaking to with some of these tricks that we've seen Max do. Even only the couple rounds we've watched him play, we've seen tricks that I think a lot of players would miss, and plays that he's made on the mulligan process that most players wouldn't make. Very unorthodox, and prospective Phoenix players could learn a lot watching this sequence of matches, even if he doesn't take down the whole tournament. But Treasure Cruise, got to help with solving that problem is taking down the whole tournament now.
Yeah, learning here's something to learn. Cast Treasure Cruise. It's really good.
It's Special Recall. Ever heard of it? You know what that one does? It's pretty strong.
It's if there's a deck that's made to Treasure Cruise, it is the Phoenix deck. That is for sure. So taking stock of where we're at in the game here, we've got the Ledger Shredder with a counter. We've got 2 counters on that Ashiok. No birds in the yard, no birds in play. Vizier in play on Adrian's side. And now, crucially, a Lotus field as well. So despite Max having, I don't want to say everything. Obviously, doesn't have a graveyard filled with birds right now. But it felt like he was in good control of this matchup, having connive triggers, having the planeswalker shutting down a lot of the search effects. But with that said, now Adrian is still at a healthy life total and does have an untap effect in a Lotus field in play. Are we seeing it slip away?
Definitely the start of it. I mean, I think you can see that just in Max's facial expression. He needs to get some stuff done. Ashiok, I mean, the down ticks come at a cost. We have actually been able to attack it with Vizier and with Lotus Field now found for Adrian. I mean, his hand's not good. I think I saw like Sylvan Scrying. I think I saw Archdruid's Charm. Like there's cards that don't work, but at the same time, if he ever draws anything big that isn't specifically an Emergent Ultimatum, I'm thinking of some of these big creatures, Dragon Lord Jamoka, even Chandra, like those are now online. Lotus Field enables those to just be castable right now, and that can start to be a big problem in the way that Adrian's going to slip out of this. And Free the Fae sees Mystical Dispute. That makes things harder.
And there's a Phoenix now in the graveyard as well for Max. So starting finally to find the pieces he might need.
Yeah, now we can play land, and I think we can get a connive, and we have another Phoenix in hand, maybe? No? We've already connived, I see. We've already connived off the Free the Fae, discarded the Phoenix, didn't hit one off Free the Fae, and now need to decide if we're going to hold up Mystical Dispute or play a third spell. Kind of the eternal struggle when you're playing against Lotus Field is which path do you take? Hold up counter magic or increase the clock?
Looks like
the star of the show.
Even when it's not in play, we've got cameos from Dragon Lord Jamoka.
I mean, you just can't speak to how impactful that card has been.
Yeah,
I really can't explain it. We've seen it just outright win games twice, and just the fact he had to ask, he had to double check, it just shows how much that's on his mind. That's just what a lot of this is about. And he knows that if there's a Jamoka hanging around in Adrian's hand, that's going to be a huge problem.
And you see what he did as soon as he got the confirmation on what Dragon Lord Jamoka does, on the fact that it could hit play next turn, immediately casts that cantrip to get the bird back and attack, because the resignation sets in. All right, if you've got it, you've got it. Congrats. But if you don't, I
my
guess
Ashiok doesn't die next turn. If you have it, I'm in a lot of trouble. If you don't have it, you know what? I'm just going to try to kill you before you do have it. So here we go. Beep, beep. Here comes 2/3 power creatures. And now, I mean, we're finally at the position. We mentioned, Adrian had a big life total for a lot of this game, and that has been true. But with Ledger Shredder now a 3-power creature and paired up with Arclight Phoenix, this is a real clock. I mean, right now we're seeing 3 turns. We're dead. And Adrian still has an Ashiok he needs to contend with. And backed up by a clock, this might be enough. And this has been one of the best draws I think Max could present in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And another connive trigger could even, reduce the clock. I guess there's a lot that could go on here. Any more birds, like things could get out of hand very quickly. So Adrian is definitely trying to figure out what he wants to do. So it looks like he's getting some Oracle, some rules wording of his own. Sits back down though. Looks like he's
doesn't look happy with the answer. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I can't speak to exactly what he asked, but he certainly didn't seem super thrilled with the result. And to Adrian,
it's been fun. It's just been a fun. These for a combo deck, right? It can sometimes get kind of dull to watch. These isn't Phoenix matchups against it have at least been had a lot going on behind the scenes, even if the actual spells cast from the Lotus Field side maybe don't change all that much. All right, though. So 11 life here, staring down 5 power flyers. Adrian chooses to kill
a different mode. We're going to fight. Put a counter, fight the bird, attack the Ashiok. That gets the job done, but certainly close to the floor for what this Archdruid shot. Still good. Yeah, look at all that text. Look at it all. Normally you're finding creatures and lands. Not this time.
Damage, okay.
Wow, counter and fight. Let's go. Just deals damage, doesn't even fight. Yeah, there we go. Busted.
The Vizier beatdown. Look, if Max doesn't have a way to get the bird back, we're just all in on this Ledger Shredder now. Now Adrian's hand is on
Galvanic Iteration, Temporal Trespass.
They're not
one turn, but 2.
Yeah, you had a fun little play, Adrian, but Max had the play at That one will probably do it.
Yeah,
Wow, what a play. Galvanic
Yeah, we have a
Iteration.
Ledger Shredder trigger we don't want to miss. So there's two triggers in the stack. You have the Galvanic Iteration trigger and the Ledger Shredder trigger. Not clear which order they're resolving, doesn't particularly matter. And we picked up the Borrower as well. So it looks like Max is actually going to have this one rolled up. We got the Jamocha covered. Even though Ashiok's off the board, we have 2 turns to do some attacking. And we can currently attack for 8. If we can crank it up to 5, then 6. So if we just have spells, then Picklock Prankster plus Ledger Shredder should be able to get the job done. I think that's what Max is talking about right this instant. He's like, yeah, I need to get one more trigger, and then we are there. Adrian's like, yeah, sure, okay. And
Galvanic Iteration is a heck of a card, right?
Okay, yeah, Galvanic Iteration plus Picklock Prankster actually is just the 2 spells you need. So there you go. You have a trigger dialed up, and yeah, that's game 2.
Yeah, Galvanic Iteration, copy your next instant or sorcery. It has flashback on top of it, but just you copy one Temporal Trespass, you're probably going to win almost every game you do that. And just having the availability of that in your deck, game changing.
Especially in this matchup where it's all about needing a little bit more time. You're just a little bit slower than the Lotus Field deck. And we saw that Ashiok was just enough to slow Adrian down in order to open the window for the extra turns to just slam the door in the game. Now, a great draw from Max, a convincing performance from Max. And this is what I'm talking about. There are draws from Is It Phoenix that make the matchup a lot more even. It doesn't look, it's not that bad. In the post-mortem games, it's not that bad. The problem is that game 1's abysmal. And when you're on the draw in the matchup, it's tough because now Max has an uphill battle trying to win a game on the draw for game 3.
Yeah, that game boiled down to the Is It player being able to turn Archdruid's Charm. He forced him to use the limited mode of the card instead of the constructed mode. It's a common mistake, but you really want to be trying to play the constructed mode.
The top one. Yeah, you want the top one. Well, the players are looking at deck lists one more time as they're shuffling up, and we will as well. Let's take a quick look, see what adjustments we can be making from Maxx Kominowski's side to win a little bit of an uphill battle here in game number 3. I called out previously, Fable the Mirror Breaker might be a card we're a little bit more interested in actually on the draw. Kind of counterintuitive, a card that is inherently better on the play as many cards are, but on the draw, you have to take a little bit more of a control role, and that involves finding the right mixture of cards, including the interaction more often, and Fable can help make that happen. Could see that change here as well. Doesn't have as many copies and does have better cards for the matchup, so might not even have the slots, but something to consider in Max's setup for this matchup, but clearly more setup to try to win this matchup, and did a good job of that in game 2.
Well, just having, we saw there's the path to victory where you interact with the opposing deck. There's also just the path to victory where you set up your own, wildly powerful play, which is what we saw with the Galvanic Iteration Temporal Trespass. And, maybe just one Temporal Trespass can also get
One's usually enough. 2 is usually more than enough.
Yeah. So if you can, there's different, this of course speaks to the power of the Is It Phoenix deck. And the reason we've seen 5 copies of them into the top 8 is that it just can interplay on so many angles. And honestly, if you think about some of the theme of the decks we've seen be successful, it is actually just decks that can interact on multiple angles. Like Dramocha has been a relevant body, not just a silence, right? Because the card silence hasn't been winning these games. Dramocha has.
Right.
And that's when it's not combo, right? So there's just a lot of just the power of that card in this matchup can be very good, and when it's not just protecting your combo. So a lot going on as we look at Adrian's deck here, as he's got his Dramocha coming out of that sideboard, we're sure, as well as you mentioned the reversal, possibly the exit, as he tries to be ready for the Ashiok that he knows is coming.
Yeah, based on his reaction to Ashiok in game 2, I would not bet that the unauthorized exit was in his deck for game 2. Maybe that changes for game 3, especially if you know about the Thing in the Ice as well. Might have just enough targets to get that over the edge and have enough targets, and the Surveil is a nice floor on the card. Other than that, I wouldn't expect too many changes from Adrian's side. Really need your Arch of Druid's Charms to work in order to find your Dragon Lord Dramocha. That's, I imagine, a big part of the plan for that card. Normally, Ashiok did a good job stifling that. But other than that, I don't expect a lot of changes. These players are off to the races. Just a tap land on 1 from Adrian and a Hall of Storm Giants from Kominowski.
Well, yeah, I can't help but think you mentioned, you talked about, you talked about aggressive mulliganing. We'll get back to that in a second. As Sylvan Scrying runs right into Spell Pierce from Max. That stops it right in its tracks. And all of a sudden, what was probably a really strong hand from Adrian with the Thespian stage in play already and Sylvan Scrying in hand is suddenly, we'll see where it goes from here, but early game plan stymied
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about what gives you a chance in this matchup,
Right.
these are the exchanges. Being able to stop the Lotus Field development. If Adrian even has to take one more turn to develop it, that's going to make a huge difference. And with Thespian Sage not doing a very good job casting Archdruid Charm, it's maybe even longer than that. And that can really buy Max the time he needs. That little exchange right there can be what it takes to give you a chance to win game 3 on the draw.
Huge. All right, huge play. Now Max is trying to turn it into the next step, though, and we're in the tank here on this Sleight of Hand. It looks like a hard choice.
Yeah, this is a hard choice, it seems. I don't know that there's a second land. It might be between second land and whatever I assume is the best card in the matchup. That's the only thing you'd think about. Can't get a good look at all.
I think it might be no.
Okay, second hall.
No red mana.
No red mana. Don't really need it. And not trying to kill very many creatures. And that's usually what the red is for.
Right.
Second
another Sylvan Scrying.
This one's going to work.
That's clutch play from Adrian there. Clutch second Scrying to go find this Lotus Field, we would assume. And we'll see if that's... Oh, wow. Picks up an Otawara.
A loud statement about how much this Sylvan Scrying actually matter. Not very much at all. We have Lotus Field dialed up already. Maybe no second stage, though. It's what playing Temple of Mystery over Lotus Field this turn could speak to. Get to float.
Or, I mean, he might feel so comfortable. Yeah, wants to keep around everything. This is... And keeps it on top. Okay, so Adrian looking to be very comfortable in this matchup. Max, though, does have a consider. Bottoms gets rid of his own Otawara, draws a land, or I'm sorry, draws a card. We think he's probably looking for lands here. He has no access to red at the moment.
Yeah, it would need to be red specifically. I mean, otherwise you don't graveyard Otawara, I imagine? Not clear.
Okay. Another...
Opt isn't where you want to be.
All right, bottom draw. Whatever Max is looking for, he is looking very hard.
Island the Find, still no red mana. May not need it. Right. And Clock Online.
And a Shredder. Okay, well, it's not been an aggressive game for Max. It's been a struggle, it seems, to get things going. Not full access to red mana, but he does have a Ledger Shredder. And there is no Lotus Field as of yet for Adrian, although it certainly seems like he's probably got it ready to go, given how the Sylvan Scrying went. So, uphill battle here for Max. What does Adrian want to do with it, though? What's the play? Starts with the Lotus Field, as expected. Looks like we're just going to
make the copy.
And go from there.
Yeah, and this is where Adrian wants to be. Now, something like Ashiok could really add to the mix here and need it right now. The shields are down from Adrian. Does not appear to have it. All the mana up could speak to some interaction, but it's got to be good because Adrian has 6 mana and you're only attacking for 1. Things slipping away a little bit.
And didn't go for like a cantrip to find a land or anything. This cannot be a great sign. And looks like Adrian is sensing the opportunity here.
Can smell a little blood in the water. I mean, Max does have Free the Fae, an instant speed cantrip, so you can, kind of get the best of both worlds, holding up mana and holding up your cantrips if you don't have to use your interaction. But like you said, not developing your own mana means that you could just still be slipping behind.
Yeah, Adrian, not just slamming whatever it is he's got. He's thinking it through here, thinking about what he wants to do. Thinking about the next step in this line to try to get through the semifinals, get through Maxx Kominowski, who has been an Is It Phoenix master all weekend long. Adrian trying to take the last step here so he can meet another Is It Phoenix.
Oh, getting out the mana, huh?
Okay. All right, the tokens are coming out.
Just a little bit of mana. Shout out to Arclight Post. I believe makes those tokens. Oh, it's silence time. Imagine you haven't seen that one yet, and the little little smirk there for Maxx Kominowski. Yeah, that one's a problem.
Yeah, it sure is. Gonna prankster. What's it? Free the Fae. Gonna go digging.
Yeah. Okay, we're Free the Fae here in response.
I don't know. I don't know about
Another
that one.
Picklock
That's
Prankster, the only option. That's
yeah.
not good.
Adrian has experience with the deck. He has been cruising through his Phoenix players all day long. He took this to the regional championship that he won in Europe. He's very likely could be taking it to the Pro Tour next week. Is he about to punch his ticket to the finals of the NRG Championship in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, if he does, he gets to play Visit Phoenix one more time. We know the other side of the bracket's a mirror. Gonna get to face Visit Phoenix the entire way. And if he's gonna be able to get it done here again, which Silence, I don't think you cast Silence unless you're planning on doing something extremely problematic for your opponent. Oh, and Kominowski can only watch. Silenced is he, and Archdruid's Charm works for the primary mode this time.
Yeah, he solved the riddle on that one. Did Adrian? Is putting the finishing touches on this one. Max knows it. He's smiling. He's had a great tournament here. Picked up points on the leaderboard points throughout the year of the NRG series. This has been an excellent tournament for all of our players here in the top 8.
Kominowski making a choice on the Connive here. Archdruid's Charm, the second spell cast by Adrian. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, here's Lier. Remember this guy?
Yeah.
Anyway, what you know about this one? Oh boy. And this is so brutal. And this has been the script on both the quarterfinals and the semifinals now. Game 1's really bad for Phoenix. Game 2, things get a lot better. You get a bunch of tools and you get to be on the play. Game 3, you're on the draw again. And even with your other tools, you're just not quite fast enough. And Maxx Kominowski's draw did not quite come together here. Not enough pressure, not enough mix of interaction. And the silence is going to make sure that nothing works at all, even if you had anything. As Adrian, like you mentioned, very familiar with what's going on here. Going to go through the motions, but I think mostly a formality.
Yeah. So next stop for Adrian, the finals against Visit Phoenix, where he will be playing for. Well, where he will have earned a regional championship invite. Not that I would imagine he needs one at this point. But also will have a chance to earn a seat at the end of the year championship, give him another reason to come back to the States.
And certainly going to feel good about his chances at Pro Tour Chicago next weekend. If this is the performance he gets to put up the weekend before. Just doesn't stop winning.
Yeah. So what is I wonder what we're seeing here right now. Is Adrian we thought this was just actually over. But
were we sure?
It seems that may not have been the case.
What happened?
I don't know what Adrian. He just must have whiffed on the draw step there. Okay, well, fair enough. Then the game goes on. Maybe just use that silence. Really wanted to take a shot to try to win. Maybe didn't get there. Not sure. Maybe he was looking for something. He's still got Lier in play though, or Liar. So he's got lots of ability to keep playing from here, but Max has got to be feeling like he's got second life, and there comes the red mana, and all of a sudden everything is back up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, Lier is still in play, so spells still can't be countered. So interaction, I mean, we kind of still already have a pseudo silence as far as protecting your own spells goes. You can even silence Max if you want, just like, no, you're not doing anything this turn. And I mean, we have Hidden String ciphered, although can't quite attack. I mean, we're just kind of in the same spot, right? Like we're untapping here. We're in the same spot. We have all the mana in the world. We have Lier. What's the missing piece? No Emergent Ultimatum? I mean, no pour over the pages. We just have nothing. Handful of cards.
Yeah. Curious myself, but I'm sure we'll find out because we're getting treated a little. Look, we thought it was over, but instead we're getting a little.
Yeah, we get a little extra dose. And I mean, Max, like I said, has to just be thrilled he's alive. Wow. I did not expect this at all. Okay.
Adrian is deep in the tank. Looks to the graveyard. Starts.
What are we going to have this turn we didn't have last turn? Hedge Maze?
Yeah, so, all right. This is a Sylvan Scrying. It looks like being cast out of the graveyard, correct? So,
yeah.
I am not sure exactly what piece he picks up.
That's a Hedge Maze. We're getting a Surveil.
Oh. Wow.
I mean, if we surveil
The exact
pages in the
situation you called
yard,
out. You got
yeah,
nothing to do,
I
but you
mean,
got a Sylvan Scrying.
nothing to do, but you got a Sylvan Scrying. Wow. All those cards in hand, none of them matter. Lotus Field to the bin, that doesn't matter. What? I mean, I'm a little flabbergasted here. We cast Archdruid's Charm for flashback last turn. If we had straight nothing going on, I would have imagined we would have wanted something like a Dromoka or like an Atraxa or something of that ilk in order to obviously have a lot going on all of a sudden. And I think we just developed mana instead.
Oh, wow. Okay. It looks like is this a second scrying going on this? It looks like one in the bin. It is. It's a second scrying resolving.
Well, we don't have another hedge maze, so I don't know.
Second surveil land.
We've already been through the Otawara. No.
Let's take a step back here. Let's assume Adrian is not winning this turn, as it appears that is not the case. Max, having ready, I'm sure in his mind was like, okay, I'm about to extend my hand. This is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. I mean, but that's not what happened. All of a sudden you get second life. You have mana. You have your red mana after missing lands. Now you have a flyer in play. You have a bird in the graveyard. I mean, I understand he is somewhat a spectator at this point, but he's got to be feeling like all of a sudden he's got a chance.
No, I mean, Lair the Hydra appears to have been the search. That was the grab there. And that could start to get the job done. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, Max going to get another turn. And yeah, like he might have found himself a spectator, but not quite anymore. And now needs to piece together a way to kill Adrian before, I mean, he has everything dialed up. A single expensive spell is both going to resolve and going to win the game. And apparently Adrian just doesn't have it. And so Galvanic Iteration, Picklock Prankster, maybe. I mean,
there's a lot of cards.
Yeah, this is a lot of cards to look at.
This is look, what happens if we just end up with a Phoenix flood here, right? Like, what if it's just all these Phoenixes hit the bin? We see a big play here from Max, and this game could turn on a dime.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And that's what needs to happen. I mean, Max, like I said, wow. I mean, he's got to be so thrilled to still be in this game and, going to capitalize on that by moving a bunch of cards around and not even just finding pressure. Interaction could matter here. Things like you can actually grab your Brazen Borrower, right? That's a fairy. Pick that up, bounce in the air, and then maybe you can counter it on the way back down with something like Mystical Dispute. Like there's a bunch of sequences when you're looking at this many cards that all you have to do really is interact with the layer in a meaningful way or up the pressure. And suddenly the game starts to actually look to be in your favor. We do still have work to do. That's not the case right now, but it very well could be very soon.
Still just spot the one Phoenix in the graveyard right now. Max thinks it through. I believe this is all an instep, right? We're on Adrian's instep.
Yeah, we had to resolve the connive before the original Free the Fake can resolve. That's what's happening here. And we got Lightning Axe!
Wow.
That answers a layer.
It sure does. And if there's any Phoenixes hanging out in the hand, it pitches them right into the yard as well. This is starting to look very different here. Max firing off the Consider. Graveyard, a Dispute. All right, we'll see what the next step
cast
here
now
is.
or Bird, I assume. Looking for some pressure, most likely. I think
he's got the one red mana. It's possible that could be. I don't know if he has another land in hand, but Max is just working with the one red, which theoretically you would think wants to leave up for Lightning Axe for the Lier. So we'll see what he wants to do with that. That could be a big point here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely going to be part of the script for this turn is finding a way to Lightning Axe this Lier. Yep. We do have another pathway. It looks like we're not going to go digging for any more birds.
And
quite like this, but we'd get a connive in order to look at another card to try to find a third spell. Although the floor here is we could just flash back the Galvanic Iteration for no value and get the bird back that's in the yard right now.
Yeah, Galvanic Iteration is an interesting little twist on the copy a spell effects, where rather than copy a spell that is already on the stack, you cast it and then it copies the next spell you put on the stack, which of course means you don't need a target to cast it in the first place, and you can use it.
Yeah, you just cast
for
it.
that third
It's
spell.
instant sorcery. That's all you care about. Let's move along with things.
All right, so one Phoenix only in the graveyard for Max, even after all the conniving. So they are hiding now somewhere in the deck. He's got 3 mana open here and still trying to work his way through this. Now is almost certainly going to have to take care of Lier as part of it. Then we'll have 2 blue open if he found any interaction that he can do with those 2 cards. Or with those 2 lands.
This is an interesting spot. So we're resolving silence in response to Lightning Axe. I mean, if you're just trying to stop the bird, Galvanic Iteration can happen in response.
Right.
So we must have something else up here. Or that's just all we have going on. No, we're not. We're maybe reading. No, we are resolving. Okay. So silence happens.
Okay.
All right, and we just smack down, but Lier is gone. Interaction potentially held up for Max, and things suddenly starting to look to be in Max's favor.
Yeah, a grip of cards. I mean, not low on cards. We don't know how relevant any of them are, but he's certainly got some to choose from if they do interact. And Adrian is, it's hard to say because he's been in such a great spot with mana over the last few turns, so he's got nothing to do with it. So maybe it's a situation where you draw a Mergent Ultimatum and the game's over. But it could also just be a situation where if you didn't have anything last turn, you probably don't have anything this turn.
Yeah, this has just been a horror show of draws.
Okay.
But here's Dragonlord Jaroka. Hello, and that is an Aether Gust very quickly. No, thank you.
Okay,
No.
we've got yet another turn in this game. Finally, an answer or a threat if first shows up for Adrian, but it immediately runs into the answer from Max. Now this Ledger Shredder beatdown is very, very relevant because this Jaroka will theoretically be coming back, and Max is going to be looking for ways to answer it.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways, right? We could Brazen Borrow it. Ironically, there's a cute trick here where we can start to look for the Ashiok on the next turn. I mean, obviously, you're kind of looking for it anyway, just to shut some stuff down. But if he puts the Jaroka on top, that's his entire next turn. But if he puts it on top and you immediately draw Ashiok, you can actually just mill it away, and that takes care of it for good.
Yeah. Great point. That's one of those, again, those small, very small edges that you always, if you're an Izzet Phoenix player, you learn those tricks and you want to train yourself to make those plays, even when they don't work out, because you never know. Maybe you'll be in the semifinals in the NRG top 8, and that's the time it'll come up. So Max has been a master of those plays all weekend long, and maybe it's will help him through the final steps here as he tries to pull off a huge upset of the Lotus field deck, which had been cruising through Phoenix players thus far.
Yeah, absolutely surgically slicing through them. And, Max maybe looking to break that narrative, break that script. I mean, found some cantrips. That triggers Connive. We're going to do that right now. We got Treasure Cruise.
Okay.
As the card to do it.
As it so often does, Treasure Cruise might be.
You heard about this one?
Pretty
3 cards.
good.
You know about that? Quite strong here. Needing to find interaction, needing to find help, and needing to end this game. I don't think we've seen
a real journey
quite yet.
This has been a real journey of a game, that's for sure.
I can't believe it. I mean, you talk about hard matchups. People talk about this matchup like it's just a 90%er. And I mean, it is bad, but it's not. I'm going to say it over and over. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
And Adrian, I don't know exactly what he needs to close the game. I don't know the composition of interaction from Max's hand, but Jaroka's certainly a big part of the equation. Really looks like Max has done a lot of floundering, but things like Temporal Trespass with Galvanic Iteration, which we know is in yard already, can really slam the door on the game that otherwise looks to be pretty back and forth. We have the Borrower already.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's exactly what the thought was, is that once you start treasure cruising and you're in that spot, like all of a sudden you're live to just draw an extra turn and the game's over. So this is going to be just Adrian's just going to be tapping the top of his deck and saying, I hope this one's good enough because we know.
The other ones have not been. And Bird is back, and now we might be looking at a 2-turn clock, and that is much faster than we were looking at from before.
Yeah, that's 8 in play right now, I believe. So that would be enough. I mean, at this point, a Hall of the Storm Giants. The next turn is the game is very
Flipping.
much swung back around where Max. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about who's favorited here. I don't know because we'll see what happens. But Max is very much in a spot. He could just take this, punch his ticket to the finals. So Adrian is going to untap here, having just one of those games where Lotus Field's incredibly powerful, but every combo deck has a fail rate of some sort, and he might have run into it here at the worst possible time.
Yeah, a really tough spot. We were out. I was already singing the praises. It looked over as over as it could be to me, but you're right. Combo decks, I mean, they have a fail rate, doesn't come up much, but it does come up, and this is the reason to make players play it out. And I mean, it may be paying off huge for Max, who we know has the Brazen Borrower. If Adrian's only play this turn is Dromoka go, he's dead.
Yeah.
See if he can do something else instead. Does seem to have some options, doing some considering here.
Well, I mean, access to plenty of mana, that's for certain, right? I think it's 9.
Sure. Yeah, mana not been the bottleneck for this game.
Yeah, so any good if he's I don't know what he'd have though, right? We don't know his hand. It's hard to imagine a card that gets him out of that wouldn't have gotten him out of it last turn. So
yeah, I think he might have even bottomed the Dromoka just because he knew it wasn't good enough. So, I mean, that's heads up, but we still need to have something here. Otawara can maybe get involved to buy some time.
Looks like we've decided on a line. It's Chandra Hope's Beacon. This has been the Planeswalker, a somewhat recent addition to the deck over the past year or so. And it's also going to run straight into an Aether Gust from Max.
And I don't think he can cover the Aether Gust. I think that's the cover he needs. And Adrian kind of sinking his head. I think that might just do it. Wow. What an upset. If this is what's happening here, we're going to see if Adrian, he's got 3 mana left over. You can get started on less, but he would have done it earlier if he had it.
Can he buy another turn? Is that where this now moves? That's it's possible. Is that what he's trying to figure out, if he can buy another turn if he can't win from this spot? That Chandra had to seem like his only plan given the way this game has progressed. He's certainly not looking like he feels good about this one. Yeah,
based on Max's body language, I don't think he's gonna get another turn. And Chandra goes to the bottom. Let's see what he can assemble. Does he have anything left over? Anything in the tank?
He's got a layer of the Hydra. Can't chump block the flyer. So, okay, we got the Otawara bounce on the Ledger Shredder. So the game probably
tapped out. Land drop is lethal from Hull alone.
Okay.
Not even
Adrian holding on for dear life here at 7. Max with 1 bird in play. He's got lair. Can he get Hall of the Storm Giants active, or is he short?
If he has an untapped land, he can, but it does not look like he does.
All right, so no easy win here. 1 Phoenix doesn't do it either.
Yeah, no, 1 Phoenix not enough. We know about the Borrower, but that can't attack this turn. We're moving cards around the graveyard. If there's a delve spell involved, that's a great way to start things off.
Yeah, certainly Max has a lot of ways to close the game out here, but in the spirit of the back and forth that this semifinals has been, Adrian thought it was over. Now he's thinking maybe it's not. Max, if he's just got Phoenix in hand, that's only 6 damage.
I can't stop going back to Max just really demonstrating his talent, not just as an Izzet player, but as a Magic player in his poise when faced with adversity. That's something I called out in his interview when he was facing down all those tokens from the Izzet and Sol deck. A lot of players just get very defeated facing these overwhelming odds. And this is the second time we have watched Max in a clutch game 3 have to beat some really, really bad odds. And the entire time he's maintained level-headed posture, played optimally, never falling into this defeated attitude. I mean, really awesome stuff to see, and shows what it takes to play at the highest level.
Wow, that's both of these players have endured a lot to get to this point. And with all of that said, Max is looking in a good spot, but he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it. He has not yet come up with lethal with all of those
Yeah,
spots.
and
So he's
maybe
got
we don't
access
have
to
it. I mean, we're doing
the
iteration. Maybe we
iteration.
need to find like 2 birds.
Mm-hmm. But he's got at least 1 bird in hand. That's 6 damage. We're going to start by exiling the iteration and playing a copied treasure cruise. But
You see the hand. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Move
yeah,
stuff around, draw your cards, do all the things. I get it. I get the joke. I love this. A little bit of back and forth with these players. And I think we might have done a deck check, both for make sure he doesn't mill himself and where are the birds?
right. I'm not sure that I see.
Oh, it's trespass.
Okay.
And we have the
He got
land.
there.
So Hall the Storm Giants does it.
He
Bird
got
attacks
there.
twice. Hall the Storm Giants can attack as well. And there's
He
2
got the
birds.
birds. Yeah. Wow. So that was, he had to get something there. He went through all of that. If he could have just played the birds, it would have worked. He did it. He had to go digging, but he got there. He found Temporal Trespass. Maxx Kominowski pulls the upset off, defeats Adrian Inigo Tasset on Lotus Field. What a matchup. That is 2 matches of his today that we've got to see just incredible wins, pulling off victories that did not seem like they were in the cards and frankly might not have been for anyone else.
I'll tell you this. A lot of players would look at this top 8 breakdown, look at the matchup spread and say, yeah, I mean, Adrian wins it. Why even watch the matches? This is why. You don't get awesome matches like that. That is what makes competitive Magic so special without playing the games, because sometimes both players hit their fail rate and you start to see some really awesome Magic come forth. And I mean, cannot shout out Max enough. I mean, Adrian obviously got to where he is. You know, we're talking about a champion, but I think, you know, the odds were stacked in his favor through this entire top 8. And to see Max be able to really flip the script and, you know, get an untap and really kind of stay level-headed and find a way to win the game through some problematic cards, Dramoka Lair, all those things going to kill you if the game goes on forever, managed to still find answers even through all the noise, and emerges victorious over what players would call a very bad matchup.
That is just incredible stuff. And we're going to see him again in the finals of the NRG Championship Series here in Chicago. That's coming up. But before we get there, we have to find out who he's playing against. And that means we are heading to the other semifinals between Matthew Hoey and Connor Mullally. Is it Phoenix Mirror? We come in on game 3. Connor's up 18-7 in life. And once again, we come in on a pretty heavy board. Is that an unlicensed hearse? So that is a lot of counters over there.
Yeah, that's where my eyes go first, is that is a big unlicensed hearse. And if I had to rewind time and rewatch this game, I imagine that hearse has been very much what the game's been about from Matthew Hoey's side, given its size and given how little permanence Connor has in play compared to Matthew Hoey. Even though it looks relatively even, that hearse is a big problem. And with Mullally suddenly down to 7 out of nowhere, that's a lethal threat.
That's called the Abyss. It's a
correct
turn, yeah. I mean, he's got to crew it, but then he's got plenty of things to crew it. Wow, what a that shows you the power. We've called it out in sideboarding and in these mirrors, and you see it here. This game, you're right. It would have had to have been all about this. And it's interesting. I mean, Matthew Hoey can keep it up to answer any Phoenixes that Connor could throw into the graveyard instant speed, or he can just use it to attack. But yeah, it looks like Matthew with plenty of options here, plenty of lands, plenty of creatures in play. And now has evened up the life totals at 7 apiece.
And, you know, life totals may be even, but I wouldn't call the chances of winning this game very even. Multiple birds in the graveyard for Hoey. Yeah, if you had an advantage bar, it'd look real comfy over by Matthew Hoey's image. The hearse representing a lethal threat, multiple birds representing a lethal threat, lethal 9 ways to Sunday, a treasure cruise just resolved, ahead on cards, I'm sure. Everything coming up, Hoey, from my bird's eye view. All right.
It looks like you're having a good time. These players out there enjoying it. This is a
NRG mainstays, both of them played against each other in championships, played against each other in the actual events. Connor begging Matthew, please just kill me.
Right.
I'm trying.
Well, this is great. This is day 1 of the series here in Chicago. We've got more Magic coming to you tomorrow. These players are this is a great way to start off the weekend, but hey, it's not even the end of the weekend. That's what's great about these events, and there's more coming near you. We talked about the schedule earlier. We got some more series you can look for in the Midwest coming to you. So We are heading very quickly towards the finals of this event, though, as that is a very large board for Matthew Hoey as these players try to put the finishing touches on this one. Looks like Connor is going to start to try to dig his way out.
Begrudging.
Yeah.
Begging Hoey to kill him. Drew a Consider. We've seen a Consider be worth a lot from Maxx Kominowski. We'll see if he can do the same Houdini dance for Connor Mullally. Borrower? That's not a 0. Can we get enough points through? With Hearst tapped, maybe a connive into an Arclight Phoenix could do it?
Yeah, well, that would in theory be the I can't tell those pranksters if they're in play or on an adventure, but if they're in play, it would have some chump blockers available. But yeah, that's the question you do face with Hearst is even when it's huge, you want to attack with it or keep it up as your graveyard interaction.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see the exile pile. I don't know how many Arclight Phoenixes are in there, but if there's any in the deck, I think Connor might have an outside chance here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't. I mean, involves a hell of a draw.
Well, and if Connor drops here, of course, as the number 1 seed, we talked about how much the play draw matchup would have mattered for the Lotus Field matchup. But hey, play draw matters, period. And Connor enjoying the benefit of that as the top seed. If he drops, then of course that shifts over. I believe that would be Matthew would be the.
Let's take a quick look at these players. Yeah, Hoey would have the advantage over Max being on the play. Okay, so we are going to do some petty theft. That triggers the Ledger Shredders. I mean, Hoey has a pile of cards in the hand. I mean, you tell me he has nothing?
Hey, good for Connor trying to fight through this, right? If they play to your outs, we've seen it all day. Maybe this will be another one. Maybe not. It's like Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, certainly play to your outs. We have definitely seen that come up huge all day long. Connor expectantly.
Yeah, Connor's just
to ready, man. Yeah, I love these players. Very expressive. Like I said, very familiar with each other's play styles, and even in high stakes scenarios like this, not gonna let a little bit of friendship.
That's what it's about, right?
Wasted on just some high stakes.
Yeah, not just in a cliche way, but that's the big benefit of having a not just a tournament, but a tournament series as you develop those relationships over time, even with your competitors. And there is the handshake.
Yeah, Counterspell looked like going to be good enough to secure Hoey's spot in the finals, where he will meet the mirror once again, this time in the hands of the master Kominowski. That, I believe, will be coming to you very, very quickly, as looks like our top 4 resolved extremely quickly, and they have a ticket to the NRG Championship to play for. Both qualified now for the regional championship. Ton of money, ton of points, which I'm sure matters to both of these players beyond considerations for Pro Tour Chicago. But there's still a little bit more stakes to play for, and quite a bit of stakes at that. And of course, a trophy, the title of champion, everything that comes along with that. We're going to turn this around very quickly. I believe our finalists are going to be ready to play very shortly. Do not go anywhere. We have more Pioneer action coming at you very soon.